Next week, it will be 3 years since I first moved to this country. And today I want to say something to honor the men of this country that I think is very different to the country where I grew up. And something that I've seen is that a lot of men in this country are very handy, very useful with their hands. Many of them do tons of house projects and fix things that are going wrong at their own house. And I think that's something very admirable, because where I come from, manual labor is so cheap that you would never have to fix anything at your place. So I have to say with a lot of shame that I am utterly useless. And one could say, Father, but you've been for 3 years here. Haven't you learned anything? And my response says, we have very generous parishioners here. But I've heard that people that are good with their hands have a saying. And their saying is, if you have the right tool, then everything is easy. They say that if you have the right tool, then you can get things done very fast. Today, the first reading says that God chose Paul to be his instrument, his tool. And I was wondering, was Paul a good tool? I mean, was he a good tool, or is just God that makes miracles and can make it work even when he has a bad tool? But if you think about it, Paul, even when he was someone who was persecuting Christians, he was already a good tool, at least, in power. Think about it. Before he was a Christian, he was already making trips and journeys for his faith. He goes all the way out to Damascus to capture Christians. So he was already doing journeys. Second, Paul was already a man with a lot of initiative. He goes out to the high priest and he says, give me permission to go capture the Christians. So he's not a passive man. He's not a man who waits for things to happen. He already is a man who takes action. He's a zealous and profoundly religious man. So look, God didn't choose any instrument. God chose an instrument that already had proven to be proficient in doing great things. Initially for the wrong reasons and wrong things, but already had, the capacity to do these things. But to me, the beautiful lesson that we can take from today's first reading is that God finds pleasure in redeeming what seems to be the worst in us. Because Paul seemed to be, irredeemable. And Ananias says, I don't want to come close to that guy. I know that he persecutes Christians. But God has the capacity to redeem and turn for good what seems lost. And I want to give you 2 examples, and with this I finish. Think about addicts. Think about people that suffer and struggle with addictions. Let's say an alcoholic. Let me ask you a question. Who is a better instrument than bringing people to sobriety than people that have recovered from being alcoholics? Also, in the religious life, sometimes we say, who's the best one in drawing vocations? Those who used to be good with the ladies. So God always has a form of redeeming everything. And it made me think about Jesus saying the other day in the multiplication of the loaves, let nothing go to waste. Let nothing go to waste. So let me finish with this question. What is it in your personality, maybe a defect, that God can redeem for good? What is it about yourself that you could say, this is lost. I will never be able to change this. I just have to settle for my defects. that God can turn for good. Today remember, for God there's nothing irredeemable.